In a near future, the United States is caught in a civil war. A strict federal government, led by a president in his third term, is struggling against states trying to break away. As Texas and California's Western forces close in on Washington, D.C., the country is on the verge of complete chaos. Experienced war photographer Lee Smith, worn down by years of conflict, barely escapes a deadly suicide bombing in New York City. Along with his journalist friend Joel, he comes up with a bold plan to interview the mysterious president. Sammy tries to talk them out of going to the Capitol, but decides to join them on their way to the front line in Charlottesville, Virginia. As they set out on their risky journey, Lee is surprised to find that Jessie Cullen, a brave young photojournalist he met during the bombing, has joined them. As they left the city, they saw chaos everywhere, broken towns and empty roads. The group pulls into a gas station guarded by armed men. While the others refuel, Jessie wanders into a nearby car wash and stumbles upon a grim scene: the guards torturing two suspected looters. One of the men catches her watching, but before things escalate, Lee steps in, snapping a photo of the guard proudly posing with the victims. Later, Jessie gets upset with herself for being too scared to take photos of what she saw. After spending the night near the chaos of battle, the group ventures out at dawn to document the violence. They watch as secessionist fighters launch a fierce assault, storming a building held by loyalist forces and turning the tide of battle in a single violent push. Amid the action, Lee notices Jessie's raw talent for capturing the grim realities of war and begins mentoring her. As the battle rages, Jessie captures a haunting moment: secessionists coldly executing prisoners, capturing the stark cruelty of the moment. After spending the night in a refugee camp, the group passes through a small town, its residents guarded and isolated. The locals cling to a fragile sense of normalcy, pretending the war doesn't exist just beyond their walls. Later, the group finds themselves caught in a deadly sniper battle amidst the ruins of a Christmas fair. As bullets fly, nearby snipers make fun of Joel's innocent questions about whose side they're on, saying they're just killing those who try to kill them. In the chaos, Jessie becomes stronger, her courage and photography skills improving as she gets used to the violence around her. As they drive on, the group unexpectedly crosses paths with two familiar foreign reporters, Tony and Bohai. After a brief exchange, Tony and Jessie switch vehicles, leaving Bohai to speed off ahead, with Jessie now riding alongside him. The others catch up just in time to see Bohai and Tony held at gunpoint by a group of unknown militia, who are coldly burying civilians in a mass grave. Sammy decides to stay behind while Lee, Tony, and Joel move forward, hoping to negotiate their release. Before they can say anything, the militia leader quickly decides to execute both reporters right there, just for not being American. In a desperate bid to save them, Sammy drives the truck into the militia and buying the others a chance to escape. But as they flee, Sammy is struck by a fatal bullet. He dies in the chaos, his sacrifice marking a grim turning point for the group. Broken and traumatized, the remaining three finally reach the Charlottesville Western Forces base, only to discover that most of the loyalists have surrendered. Washington, D.C. now stands as the last stronghold, guarded only by the fanatical remnants of the armed forces and the Secret Service. In a haze of anger and grief, Joel spirals, drunkenly blaming Sammy's death as pointless. In a mix of anger and sadness, Joel loses control, drinking heavily and blaming Sammy's death as meaningless. Lee struggles to capture Sammy's death, as she deletes the photo she took of his lifeless body. Trying to offer some comfort, Lee tells Jessie that Sammy would have wanted to die doing what he loved. The trio joins the Western forces as they storm D.C., a city already crumbling under the weight of war. Jessie throws herself into the chaos, constantly putting her life on the line to capture the raw brutality of the conflict through her camera lens. Meanwhile, Lee grapples with the haunting effects of post-traumatic stress, struggling to cope with the overwhelming violence and chaos unfolding around her. As the Western forces breach the White House's heavily fortified perimeter, chaos erupts. In a desperate bid to escape, a convoy carrying the president's limousine speeds away, but Western forces units swiftly take them down. As the vehicles are torn apart, the occupants, along with the First Lady, are killed in the chaos. Realizing it's a diversion, the trio shifts their focus, heading inside the White House, determined to get closer to the heart of the collapsing government. As the trio moves deeper into the largely deserted White House, they encounter the bodies of staffers strewn across the halls. A lone Secret Service agent attempts a desperate negotiation, offering the president's surrender in exchange for safe passage, but his plea ends in her swift death. In the wake of the failed negotiation, the few remaining Secret Service agents, fiercely loyal to the president, are left with no choice but to engage in a brutal firefight with the advancing Western forces. As the firefight intensifies, Jessie, driven by the need to document the chaos, steps boldly into the line of fire. Without hesitation, Lee jumps in front, pushing Jessie to safety. But in that instant, Lee is shot by the Secret Service. Jessie, in shock, lifts her camera and captures Lee's final moments, her sacrifice forever frozen in a heartbreaking photo. Jessie walks into the Oval Office, showing no emotion as she watches soldiers pull the president from beneath his desk, ready to kill him. Joel, looking for a story, quickly stops the soldiers to ask the president for a quote. In a moment of fear, the president begs, "Don't let them kill me." Joel, satisfied with the quote, steps back, letting the soldiers continue. Meanwhile, Jessie calmly raises her camera, capturing the haunting image of Western forces soldiers posing with the president's lifeless body, the final symbol of power lost. Thank you for watching Movie Mind. Subscribe for more update.